Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Valley Strength, and I have wrapped up all of the primary training, all of the heaviest work, heading into the Virginia Pro next week. I'll be competing on December 4th. Lifting starts, I think, at 12 p.m. Virginia time, so I'll make that stuff accessible, the stream links and those kind of things, in my profile on Instagram if people are interested to watch. But anyway, this block was quite the interesting block for me overall. I actually made the program that I ended up doing available in the link below. As always, you can follow the programs that I'm doing by going to the link below and clicking on that free program link. But in this case, I had so many issues with some of the things that I'll end up talking about that disrupted this block, that the block that I ended up doing really was not at all the same block as I intended to do from the very beginning. So I just made the block really just the training that I did myself accessible, so you can view it in the link below where it just says my block. But you can see that all the notes that I took and those kind of things, just with really the general disruptions and how I had to address those things. So heading into this block, I brought in a lot of the things that I normally expect to really bring out the best in me, especially heading into competitions, things like pin squats and lots of belt squats and those kind of things. And then on week one, I had a surprise visit from some knee pain, really bilateral knee pain. And it's not something that I get regularly, but it's happened to me doing some sumo before. I kind of live with some constant knee pain on my right side, but really not enough to actually even have to think about making training decisions around it. But from time to time, both knees, kind of the patella pain, will pop up, and I don't really have a great explanation for why it came on week one. My block, the last block, actually was deliberately set up to have me coming into this block as healthy as I possibly could, and I felt like I accomplished that, especially in my lower body. I was dealing with a little bit of a pec strain on my left pec, which is why you see some of this like tempo benching that I'm doing here. The objective with these was to give myself some practice with a bit more intensity, kind of like perception of difficulty with these, even with the load being lighter. And overall, like now I'm ending with my pec feeling a whole lot better, but I had some other upper body disruptions. So anyway, on week one, I got shocked on my first deadlift day that I had some pretty severe knee pain that was pretty unpredictable the whole block. I couldn't really pinpoint where it was coming from. Sometimes it would hurt bench pressing, sometimes it would hurt squatting and deadlifting. Squatting actually was the most comfortable, but in an effort to get things feeling better, I ended up trying to remove a lot of the things that I was pretty confident were creating issues. So like belt squats was one of the first ones to go. Ultimately, I had to get rid of pin squats, and I really think that was mostly just about the intensity associated with the pin squats, and I moved to this kind of really light, almost kind of recovery-ish squat work, but it really did not get to do the practice with heavier loading that I think is so valuable for myself heading into competitions, kind of getting used to the intensity, the effort required down at the bottom of my squat. So I really lacked all that, and belt squatting is something that I don't tolerate a whole lot of squat volume overall very well. Get beat up in my upper body, just kind of generally beat up kind of all around hips and everything. So the belt squat has been a big factor that I've included in my training, kind of year round, 1 to 2 times a week, higher reps, and it really keeps me feeling like my legs are underneath me. But unfortunately, I had to cut that one as well in an effort to stay healthy. So I think the big thing that we have to look at with this is that the choices that I made were about the timeline and the competition, and being able to really put something on paper and execute something to feel like I was practiced with repetitions and being able to perform the movement. And that's both squat and deadlift, is that I have a lot of things in my head that I think will make me very prepared for a competition when everything is running the best that it can. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to do those things. And that doesn't mean at all that I can't have a good meet. I just posted yesterday on my Instagram that I have been putting in some very, very solid work. Really, this whole year has been a very successful year of training for me. I've had PRs really on all lifts, especially squats and deadlifts. And so at this point, really the biggest thing that I could do to be ready is just try to get my skill up, get myself an ability to feel confident with the way that I'm moving. Just because my knees are hurting and I can't do some of these exercises that I really think are valuable, that benefit the way that I move and make me stronger, I'm not losing strength by not doing those things. And the worst thing that I could do is try to be as tough as I possibly can and try to just force myself to do these things that are piling on and making me less and less comfortable and affecting my movement negatively. So I ended up having to take out a lot of that stuff, like right here, doing some RDLs instead of, this is normally a belt squat slot, but this was an area that I found, okay, I can still be productive, I can still work my hamstrings, my back strength, and hopefully include, get a bit stronger on deadlifting, even though I wasn't able to do a whole lot of deadlifting overall this block. So ultimately, I think the biggest thing that people need to take away from what ended up happening with this kind of prep for me is that things won't be perfect. Sometimes we have amazing blocks heading into competitions, and those things are great. It's super exciting to really build into competitions and have things all going perfectly. But more often than not, when people have some difficulty like this, they end up panicking and sometimes bailing on the competition or making bad choices in an effort to be as prepared as they possibly can, going too heavy and making their injuries worse, and then not being in a position to be able to actually put something good on the platform. So ultimately, at the end of this block, I think I was able to adapt. I think I was able to keep up with all of the difficulties that were coming my way. And now even though my training was not as strong and confident and the best it possibly could have been on the way in, I do feel like I was able to practice enough to be able to feel like I have a good chance of representing the strength that I've built in every other block. So if you're just waiting for the peaking block to end up giving you the strongest competition, the best total ever, and there'll be a magical result from a peaking block that shows up, it's just not going to happen. The results you see on the platform are results of every other week of the year, and not just the 4 or 5, however many weeks heading into competition. So anyway, the other issue that I had during this block was a kind of a pinched nerve. I got it maybe 2 weeks ago at this point on this secondary bench day. And again, ironically, the secondary bench day was just about some rep work, trying to get into a groove with the bench press, not bug the pec too much, just kind of some light kind of priming practice for my heavier bench day. And again, something that I felt like was going really well. And then a week or two ago, I guess, I was doing my last set on this day and kind of felt a little bit of a pop in my neck in one of the reps. It wasn't very bad, but got up and my neck kind of stiffened up over the next few hours, and woke up and it was very stiff, and really didn't feel like it was going to be that much of a big deal. But then laying down to bench press a few days later, it was significantly impacting my ability to press. Like I just really couldn't feel like I could press into the bench at all. So that's kind of gotten resolved a little bit as well, and making a bit of a comeback to where now it's cranky here and there, but it doesn't seem like it's affecting anything, and I think I'll be able to compete without that holding me back. But obviously affected some training on the way in, so had to do a lighter arch and do a bunch of try to work up slowly and find some loads that I could manage without pressing too extremely hard. But it kind of worked myself back into a position to where I felt really good about my pressing. So the big thing is just that these kind of freak accidents will happen. Unfortunately, they happened for me in a competition block, which is a little bit demoralizing, I guess it can be. But this is not my last meet. This is not the last meet that I'll ever do. I in no way is that the concept here. And so I think when people build up competitions to be significantly bigger every single time than they need to be, and these little bad things happen, it turns into a really, really bad situation where, to me, I kind of now feel more confident that I was able to get through some of the most disruptions, the worst training, a pec strain to start the block, pinched nerve, some knee pain, bilateral knee pain. And this day was a big example of that, was that I didn't have knee pain earlier in the week, and then I woke up this day and could barely do a bodyweight squat kind of out of nowhere. So I really wasn't even sure how much I was going to deadlift at all, but took my time warming up, try to get as loose as I can, but really lacking some of the confidence and the real aggression down at the bottom to be able to rotate fully and really use my legs, but still worked up and pulled 350 kilos, so 770-ish pounds, which is actually going to be my opener, assuming that I am feeling good on the day and I don't have to drop it, but I'm planning it opening at 350 because I've been pulling very well. But even something like this, I have a day I can barely do a body weight squat and still pull nearly 800 pounds, fairly comfortably, besides the huge amount of doubt that I had that I was even going to get it off of the ground. So ultimately leaving the day, I end up feeling like, oh wow, hey look, if this is the worst day I can possibly have, then that's really not so bad. So I think it just has to be looking at the overall process more so than necessarily the specifics. The body of work is really indicative of how strong I am, and the specifics definitely influence my attempt selection and those kind of things, but overall the body of work definitely points to being very, very positive. So anyway, as a kind of a training wrap up, because I've probably rambled on for too long and I don't have too much to say about the rest of the week, besides kind of the theme of this day, and all of them was just putting myself in a position to be able to perform at the competition and being adaptable with what loads I had on the bar, and really kind of understanding the scheme or the ideas behind doing what I'm doing, which I think is important. If you're obviously, sometimes I'm making these videos for athletes of mine, is that if we get caught up in exactly what's on paper and we get caught up in perfection, I think that sometimes misses the point. And if we're doing triples for a certain reason, trying to find a good balance between load and coordination and confidence and movement efficiency and all of self-efficacy, all that kind of stuff. Even here I dropped all the way down to 270 kilos because my knees were starting to hurt. So I still felt like this was a load that I could improve the quality of my movement a little bit, not make my knees worse, get some good practice in, and move on and live to fight another day. So that was kind of the theme of this whole block, is that if you look at the stuff on paper, there were some heavy sets, some heavy triples written. Even squatting at the end of the week was a set that was going very, very well for heavy triples, and going in, I just knew after this deadlift day, with my knees feeling so bad, that I was gonna skip that all along to try to save things. So ultimately ending in a good position to where I feel like I can put up a really big total. Obviously I think I'm capable of a 2,000 pound total, but that will take a really, really good day to be able to make that happen. I think at this point my goal is to total over 900 kilos. 907 would get me 2,000, but we'll see. I'm just gonna play this one smart and try to make as many attempts as I can. I'm not cutting either, so since USAPL is moving to the new weight classes, I've been weighing 106 and a half, 107 kilos, so I'm just gonna wake up and eat breakfast and do what I normally do, and I'll probably weigh in maybe right around 107, maybe just a bit over, and I'm kind of just considering myself in the 110 weight class for now. So this will be my first meet as a 110 anyway. So we'll just kind of see what I can put up. But yeah, ultimately, I think the take-home message here is that regardless of what your peaking block ultimately shows, right? And I always put peaking in quotation marks, because the peaking is just trying to get you in a position to be able to represent the stuff that you did the rest of the year. So in this case, I think I managed to do that to the best of my abilities. I don't think that anything that I could have done differently would have given me a better shot at that. And so now having done that, I feel ready to compete and just see how I shape up given the circumstances. So anyway, I'm excited about it. Excited to see what I can do on the platform after some difficulty here. I think sometimes these are more encouraging afterwards when I walk away and say, like, man, I was able to overcome so much. If I just have a little bit better, then we'll be in really good shape. So I appreciate all you guys, taking the time to watch these videos and listen to my content and all the kind words whenever we're going into meets, all the hype. It really does help me out. So anyway, next video will be a recap of the meet. Hopefully it'll be all positive. I do feel very positive about the potential that I have at this competition. But ultimately I'll share all of those attempts and my thoughts when it all is said and done. So anyway, if you liked this video, if you liked all of my videos, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.